second email telling me they can't believe the story I opened up with. The story is this. The story is simply because you put a political hack in a black robe does not mean the political hackness goes away. And I opened up telling the story, firsthand story from our law firm of the Metabolife case. Many of them like the one that I described to you. Many of them, more than I can count. But I wanted to talk specifically about a judge that came up as a political hack, Tony Lindsay in Texas, because Tony Lindsays are all over the country right now. But now I get emails, I can't believe the story. I can't believe that story. Really? Well, let me put the lawyer on the phone that handled the case. I've got Tim OBrien with me. Tim's probably tried more cases than any lawyer listening to this broadcast nationally. No exaggeration. This is a trial lawyer's trial lawyer, the best in the business. Goes state to state because he is so good at what he does. And just like me, he's tried cases all over this country. Has stories like the one we're about to tell you from all over the country. Tim OBrien, tell me the Judge Tony Lindsay story.
Mike, I tell you, it was the death of logic. As we're sitting there through this hearing, this evidentiary kind of threshold hearing that vests all the power in the judge to determine what a jury can hear and can't hear, I sat there, and as we told the story of Amelia Santiago and how her doctor said, hey, ephedra did this to you. You're in a locked-in state. You're going to be a vegetable for the rest of your life. You can't be a mother to your kids. And ephedra Metabolife did this to you. The American Heart Association says, yes, ephedra does this to people. Metabolife does this to people. American Medical Association, yes, this does it to people. Metabolife's own medical director admitted, this is before Metabolife was even indicted for lying about the risks of ephedra. Yes, ephedra causes strokes. So as we go through this hearing, the one question that the court had, that the judge had, was, where's the study that proves what everyone is saying is true is true? Where is the study?
As if there has to be a study. First of all, that's a ridiculous. There doesn't have to be a study. The industry was covering up any studies they had anyway. So my point being, here you have a shut-in, paralyzed. She's a true shut-in. Her mind works well. She can blink her eyes, but that's it. Metabolife causes this horrendous injury. The story that I got firsthand was that she was virtually sleeping while the medical testimony was coming in. Why was she sleeping? Because she was a Republican hack who had already made up her mind that corporations win all the time and victims lose all the time.
Pap, I couldn't. You summarized it exactly. I was there. I was arguing. We were putting live witnesses on, putting the evidence on, and she slept. And as when she literally, when the hearing ended, she said, "So where's the study that Metabolife should have done?" I said, "Well, they didn't do one, and they don't. We don't need a judge because they've admitted they didn't do it." And then here's what happened. Here's precisely what happened. She says, well, I find that all of the evidence, the American Heart Association, the American Medical Association, the admission from the Metabolife medical director, the treating physicians who treated Amelia Santiago as she went from being a mother to being a pillow with thoughts. All of that was flushed down the drain because Metabolife had not done a study which could then point to certain numbers. And, of course, they've got no motive to do such a study, Pap. And to me...
Well, they knew it was killing people. Matter of fact, they were criminally prosecuted, weren't they?
Yes. The CEO was indicted for lying to the public about the risks of ephedra and Metabolife specifically. Yes, he was indicted in 2005.
And the parallel that I'm drawing here, Tim, I know you're up on politics. I know I called you out of the clear blue. My apologies. But the truth is, this is a parallel to what we saw with Judge Robin Simpson in Pennsylvania. We didn't have a person in a vegetative state who could only blink and could think, but we had the heart of democracy on the line. And this Republican hack, Judge Simpson, had overwhelming testimony, Matter of fact, undisputed testimony. There was no testimony from the other side at all, and he rules that people should not be able to vote and that the Pennsylvania's voter ID Republican scam should stand. And my point is, Tim, you've seen the same thing. You and I didn't even chat before I got you on the phone here, but I think it's safe to say you've seen the same thing play out with this new move of Republican packing that's taking place all over the country.
I've seen it, Pap, and I tell you, I've seen it, and I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was 9 years old, since a train derailment took my uncle from me, and this firm represented my family. I've always wanted to be a lawyer, and when that happened, I can't explain to the people listening what it feels like, because your blood runs cold. You know that you're witnessing the death of logic, and I felt like I was in some banana republic monkey court, that just to see what happens to this woman happen. I'd never would have thought, with all of the evidence, American Heart Association, American Medical Association, the own company admitting it, and the treating doctors all on board, all saying the same thing, and to have a judge sleep through it and then say, okay, well, I kick it out because Metabolife didn't do a study.
Fill in the blanks about Judge Tony Lindsay there from the 280th District in Texas. What's her background?
Well, her husband was a county court judge in Harris County, which is Houston, and he suggested that she go to law school. She went to law school. He immediately got her a job with an appellate judge. As soon as that appellate judge clerkship ran out, guess what? With no legal experience at all, no lawyer experience at all, she becomes a district court judge. That is a trial-level judge in Houston, in one of the largest cities in our country, and she becomes the person sitting and judging all of these things under the standard. Now, her husband is what is now a retired state senator, Republican senator from Houston. He actually
let me guess, Republican. That's the key phrase here, isn't it?
Yes, and he was actually indicted on some campaign finance issues. He apparently took $145,000 in campaign finance donations and bought his son a boat with it. So
and he was indicted for that.
Yeah, the situation makes its own gravy, Pat. Really, it's beyond belief that folks like that can be really the arbiter of the death of logic.
Okay. Well, I wanted the listeners to hear it directly from you, and I can't stress enough. This is one of the most talented trial lawyers in the country. I'm accused of being too harsh, being too edgy on issues like this, but I wanted them to hear it from you, Tim, and I wanted to make sure that they understand that what's at stake here is democracy, because right now, just in Texas alone, you have 93% of the time the claimant will lose, the consumer will lose to the corporation 93% of the time, and that's spreading out throughout the country. And we just saw something similar. It wasn't physical injury. It was a moral injury to the voters in Pennsylvania. We just saw the same thing play out with Judge Robin Simpson in Pennsylvania. Tim OBrien, thanks for joining me, okay?